Well, welcome back to the final call for empathic influencers to accelerate or be uprooted. I am Empathic Empire-preneur Authority, AliNICOLE WOW, along with Empathic Power Enhancer, Gina, Gardiner, and Chief Chakra Awakener, Brenda Jacobson. And we've been sharing about the importance of really stepping up to answer this final call. And we'll go a little bit more into detail about the importance and what this final call, is. But I want to recap and just, share a little bit about what we've covered. I shared about the empathic shift from stall to acceleration, and also the 5 things that empathic influencers should know about, what's emerging, and why the time actually is now to accelerate or to be uprooted. Gina shared about the responsibility to shift into new levels of power, to accelerate now. And Brenda shared about shifting from resisting to responsibility for the higher calling. We're going to have a conversation to expand and expound on this experience, and then we will provide calls to action in the forms of taking advantage of special offers and opportunities where we can actually support your acceleration process. And then I'm actually going to invite Gina with her magnificent empowerment to actually close us out with some final words of empowerment after we have our dialogue and sharing the call to action. So Gina, I will be inviting you at the end to actually give us a nice synopsis and close out. So welcome back, Queens.
Hi there, thank you.
Glad to be here.
Yes, glad that we are resuming, with this. A lot of energy was created in the last session. And I believe that the energy that was created was this up-level invitation to implementation. And even though some of what was shared could sound like, whoa, I'm really being hit with this. This is pretty strong. But at the same time, the vibration around it is that it really is a love-based experience. Because it's saying that here's a window and you got to go through it now because time is at hand. And it's not to judge where you've been or even where you are now. It's this, here's the opportunity for the shift. So I would really love to hear, Gina, starting with you. And then, of course, we can just be having conversation. But I want to start with Gina on just your overall feel and sense for this experience that was created in the first session, or anything that kind of stood out to you that you want to actually talk a little bit more about, and then of course we can talk about the areas that you all covered as well. But I guess I should say you can start with anything that I shared, and then maybe talk about some of the things that Brenda shared as well, and then we can kind of cross communicate.
I think the first thing I would say is that the patterns of behavior that you identified in terms of empaths throughout that first video very much were reflected in my own experiences of working with empaths. And that when you talked about the 5 areas that influence influencers, empaths who are influencers, leaders who are influencers need to know. And I think it works well for both parties and for those people who are both leaders. Well, in a sense, the reason I think I'm hesitating is that empaths are by their very nature, if they choose to step into their power, they are leaders.
Absolutely.
And it's very easy to make a distinction. There are leaders who perhaps aren't empaths, but let's stick with those empaths who have the capacity and the divine purpose to lead people into a different way of being.
Yes.
And like all great leaders, the best way to lead is by example. Yes. And so all of the things that you were talking about you know, the being able to really be aware of your own behaviors, to be aware of the things that you do, to recognize when you're getting stuck in the story. And we all create stories.
Yes, right.
You know, I can't do this because it's not possible, because it's difficult, because, well, for the most part, I often say to clients, that's a belief. It doesn't have to be the reality unless you choose it to be. But creating the momentum, you know, getting out of the way of yourself, taking the moment, has never been more critical. And I think that's one of the things that's become more and more apparent over the last few months, and particularly in my time in working with you, is that sense of urgency.
Yes.
It's so easy to get caught up in this loop and going round and round in and it can be a very attractive circle, and we can convince ourselves that actually it's the right thing to do and that it's having some results. But in reality, unless you are constantly aware of your own patterns, the things that you do to get in your own way, you're going to get stuck in that loop. And so, you know, it just seems to me that shifting, when you talked about shifting into the acceleration portal, that really was powerful for me, because, you know, acceleration for acceleration's sake doesn't get you anywhere.
Right.
But there is a portal which is going to not only uplift you and expand you and accelerate your capacity to be in connection with divine consciousness and so on, that portal is only going to be open for a short amount of time. And so for me, what does it take? You've got to be you've got to take ownership. You've got to be intentional.
Yes.
Intentional about making a decision to be responsible. So the question is, you know, are you paying attention to your behavior, focusing on what you're building? You know, what about your language? Because that's one of the other things that's really been powerful for me, is to recognize how our language often is the thing that holds us back and keeps bringing us back into that loop. And so a different vibration requires different languaging. And you need to ensure that you're leading from a place of empowerment and transformation. And as you do, the awareness becomes the conduit, the bridge, if you like, to new levels of comprehension and enlightenment, a new dimension. And it's not done. It's not as if you develop and it's done, that you're there. That leads to a new bridge, a new conduit. It's constantly evolving and expanding. And for me, I think it's this, I get quite frustrated really with those people that I have worked with who are amazing and who have not yet twigged that they are the people that are holding themselves back.
Right.
And that when the aha moment comes and people recognize, you know, that's just old conditioning, it's an old belief, it's an old way of being, and they move that out of the way, then the results are just stunning.
Yeah. Absolutely. We just need them to move into that faster, you know, and that's the thing. A lot of times, I want to say this real quick. A lot of times what happens is, from that control factor, is they have this mentality that, well, at least I get there. I'm a little slow, but I actually do get there. And but not understanding, in the trying to get there a certain way, there's a whole lot that could be taking place that actually needs to be, because you've heard me talk about this quite a bit, is that whether it's the marketplace or even humanity, even with their best innovations and expansiveness, is still very far behind, because they actually have not metamorphosized. And so coming into this expansion of being bigger caterpillars versus actually going through the metamorphosis to become completely different expressions, and that's tapping into the encoding. It goes back to what I said about empaths being encoded with this acceleration, but also you all know too from the work that I do that empaths are actually encoded to be high-end service providers, high-end expressions and symbols of prosperity, you know, and abundance. They're actually sourced for that, but then several of them spend time camped out and I don't feel worthy, I don't want to charge, that's not part of our orientation. It's not. And the more that there's the stall and stuckness in this format of, oh, I'll eventually get there, well, no, that there's no guarantee for that. But at the same time, look at when all that's not taking place. And so I just wanted to interject that there, because you're right. When they actually do get it, man, it's phenomenal things that take place. But they have to recognize, but you don't actually get to call the shots in this anymore. There's no more time stalling. You're either going to forfeit all of the evolution that you have brought about, and it will be quite a long time before a cycle comes back around that you can fulfill that, or you will just have missed it. Don't settle for secondary places and purpose when you are actually called to be out front and you're called to be leading in these higher ways. Don't get comfortable and just say, well, I will settle for an alternative. No, because that's going to be a hard life to know that you're here to do something more and you miss the critical window when it could have been done, because we're in a different space and time. It's not where, the whole philosophy around, well, it's like it's never too late to do X, Y, and Z. In the new grid, it actually is. You actually will forfeit a certain level of purpose and have to be re-engineered, redesigned. But trust me, it is going to be the lesser experience. And why have come all this way to then play for the lesser experience when you actually design for the greater? So, well, go ahead, Gina, and then of course, Brenda, you can jump in too, of course.
On something that you said, there's no guarantees. What I would say is that if you don't move, you're guaranteed to stay doing the same old, same old.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the first thing is take ownership.
Yes.
The second is give yourself permission to shine. Too many empaths are, it's a family word, faffing about, playing very small, because they're fearful or because they don't trust. And I think learning to trust yourself and to trust the opportunity is there. And sometimes that's a leap of faith and that can be hard.
Definitely.
But what I've learned is the more confident I become in my limitless potential, the more I trust, and I'm prepared to perhaps be a bit uncomfortable and step out of the confines of my comfort zone, the greater the opportunities there are there. And moreover, it's almost a logarithmic increase. It doesn't increase proportionately. The more you do it, the bigger the opportunities, the bigger the expansion. And I would say to anyone listening to this, if you are aware that you have a purpose which is to serve others, what right have you got to not
my language own, there? You don't have a right
to own your divine purpose, to own who you are, and you do yourself and humanity a disservice by not stepping in to be the most amazing person that you actually are when you stop hiding.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Gina. Brenda, want to hear from you, and then we'll continue, in some dialogue, and then we'll get into sharing how we actually support, with this initiative. So, Brenda, would love to hear your thoughts about, what has been shared.
I love everything that Gina just said, and everything that you brought to the forefront, AliNICOLE. One of the things when you were talking in the last session about the window and losing that ability to move forward, I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that had very strong gifts earlier on and just were not willing to do the work. They were waiting for somebody else to do it for them. And they are no longer getting their messages. They're no longer getting their dreams. They're they really are digressing rather than moving forward. And yet I see some people who have faced some really profound life challenges that really stepped up that I didn't think were going to make the cut, So it works both ways. Like those and to Gina's point, because I focus in that emotional realm. And I think it's so critical to us. I can see all of my resistance was based in emotions of some sort. It was based in fear. It was based in hopelessness. It was based in a lack of trust because of so many disappointments and betrayals that I've experienced in this past realm. And it really is cleaning up that energetic debris before people. I mean, it's one thing to say move forward, but so many people can't see past those emotional barriers and blocks that they have in place in order to even see that portal. And so I think the time is so critical now for them to understand, to really take a step back and look at deep within, because these things are always hiding in the shadow, but really look deep within to see what the patterns are, what is holding them back, what is behind that, and just just get naked with yourself, like really understand what is behind that. And it's hard to face those things. However, there is so many tools available now, and we'll get into that, to actually help point them in the direction of what to look for. And when they do see that, and there's tools that that will accelerate it for them, that will take them through that process to where they can start to see the portal and see clearly. And there's no fear left in it. They can step out onto that cloud and with a level of trust. I mean, that's the first emotion in the expanding emotions that you want to step into, is just trusting in the process. After that, you can gain optimism and acceptance and understanding, but the first level is trust. And even before that, if that's level 1, level 0 is having the courage to actually do the work, to do that inner exploration, to reveal those obstacles and clear them out. It does take a lot of courage to step into.
Oh, it does, and well stated. And the thing about it is that where we are now is that those who have been in these processes over and over, who actually know what they should be doing and can move on, based on people who are like new to this, there's a different vibrational accountability that comes into play, because what happens is, specifically like what we're talking about, for sure within who this call is really designed for, is for those who actually have been in the process for quite some time. They've been going through and they won't move themselves out. There's a different level of accountability, and that's who the window is closing, for, is because they're at a point now where they actually don't have time to, let's go through this as a process. They've got to evolutionize their experience and then metamorphosize into the expansiveness so that they could play out, because the readiness is there in terms of the development, but what it is being developed yet not performing. And it's almost as if an oak tree is still trying to act like it's an acorn, and that's what a caterpillar is still trying to act like it's a butterfly, and it's like a butterfly trying to still act like it's a caterpillar, and that's impossible because the metamorphosis broke down any of the former, and it's about emerging into something new. But if they don't step up and formulate, then like any caterpillar that is encoded to become a butterfly, every caterpillar that is encoded to become a butterfly doesn't actually become one, and they die in the process. And so when we have these who are stuck in transition, they're not a caterpillar anymore, they're unformed, but they haven't fully formulated into the butterfly. This is where people start to forfeit in aborting their dreams and putting to death a process that was meant to expand them, and then they settle and not understanding. But you can't actually go back to what was. So when you're in that middle unformed, that's going to be your life moving forward. And even though your best attempts of trying to serve at a higher level, you still can have a good life, and you still can do some service, but it's always going to be unformed. It will not be functional. It will not be with ease. It will constantly always have something, because that's the unformatting that never came to fruition. So that's not going to be a comfortable place to settle in. And so that's why this importance of this particular call is to say to those, for you who have actually been in a process for quite some time, and again, we're talking about leaders of leaders. We're not talking about people who are just now trying to discover their purpose. We are talking about people who have already been influential, and also ones who, even if they haven't been at a grander scale, they are already prepared to do that, and they're not stepping in and moving forward, into that. So that's where it's like, no, for you, you will be uprooted, because if you are planted in good soil, you should be bearing certain fruits. And so the separation energy, the separation time that comes is, it is separating wheat from the chaff at this point. Who are the ones who are really serious and going to take their expansion and move this world forward in a grander way? Who are the ones who are playing around still, trying to, get it right, trying to do all these things, making the mission about them and not about the grander experience? And you all heard me say, if you are a leader, what does your unworthiness or what does all this stuff have to do with the grander mission that because when you were called to something, you weren't called just to yourself, you were called to be able to make a difference. So you owe it to not just yourself, but of the others that you're called to move yourself past these scenarios quicker. And something that Brenda stated that I want to address, and I thank her so much for bringing, this up, is about, the availability and the help that is there. But what's happening is that and I actually named that in some of the characteristics, is that we're not talking about people who actually don't have things right here for them, everything to do to move forward. It's different when people actually don't have insight or something, to the next steps. But we're talking about people who actually, other people are demonstrating it before them, laying out, here's the things that you need to do, and they still are stalling. So that's the thing of the calling up to this acceleration or the uprootment, to those individuals, is because we don't actually have time anymore. Not when people who are in that. So, an example, real quick. Let's take us, for instance, who are leaders, who are making a huge impact, but we know that we are continuously called up. But then we, in all that we've done and achieved, we decide to stall and, not really take serious this next level of expansion, which is the most important in humanity's evolution. It's like, you did all this before. Why get to this point where it's the biggest shift in history taking place, and now all of a sudden, well, no, then you cancel out all the other stuff you've actually ever done, and who wants to forfeit that? So we have the responsibility, and that's what, you all were talking about, to step into, Gina, to step into the new levels of limitless power, the responsibility to that as a leader. And then what you talked about, Brenda, in terms of shifting from the resisting to being responsible to, to this new higher call to service, because everything that the preparation phase has done is prepared for this more expanded life and a higher service. So yeah, we can't get here and stall out, and can't even paint it a pretty picture for others to say, you still have time to take your time. No, you actually don't have time to take your time. It is the final rounds, accelerate or, or eliminate. And one of my 5 points, which I didn't really expound upon in this, in this session, but it is, the call to accelerate or be eliminated, and that is basically, I did talk about it, but I go more into greater length in the actual training. But that is where we are. So people have to see, you can't be hot, you got to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm. There is no middle ground here. You're either accelerating or you're forfeiting at this point, So I know, we could talk about this for, quite a bit, but we definitely need to get into our offers. But before we get into, sharing how we're going to help people, because that's most important, is we can tell, this is not a problem-focused initiative. This is more about solutions, but the reality that's being reconstructed is saying, here, this is what has to happen, and these are the times we're in. But we do have solutions, for that. So we're not just telling people, well, you need to do this, you need to this, that, and that, and not actually provide for them an experience that could help to, bring them into this acceleration. So before we share, anybody want to share something really quick? Mm-hmm. Or should we just go ahead and move on into the offers, and then we can wrap up with some words? How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay, all right. So our call to action is going to be in the form of inviting you into an experience with one or both or all of us. But before we actually start sharing, I'm actually going to have Gina to share first. I mentioned in the first session that the three of us have done a lot of collective works together. And one of the offerings collectively that we provided was the new Empathic Experience virtual media tours. And it was all about the new now, the new you, and also the new future. And so there's going to be a link with that particular media tour and the renderings and opportunities, from that experience will actually be in the description. So I did want to share that. So Gina, if you could share what you have to offer for this acceleration format. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to invite people to join me for a new level of limitless power for empathic leadership, acceleration, assessment, and action session. We've talked about, people who are already doing great works, but are just using the smallest percentage of their potential. And so this is really about those people who I've no doubt you're helping others, but who want to be the very best version of themselves that they can be, to actually embrace their power fully and to step into their divine purpose. And so it's a session where we can unpick, where are you actually at? What are the bits that are holding you back? And create a plan to help you step into being the best version of you and to embrace your divine purpose and know that you are doing everything to accelerate and to expand your horizons and your vibrations and your consciousness moving forward. And so it's a 90-minute session. It is an assessment session. It requires you to be honest and to be ready. There's no point in doing it unless you are ready to take action and move forward. And so you'll come away with a bespoke plan to help you achieve your limitless potential.
Okay, awesome. And you have publications too, and we'll have information in the description and feeds and everything within there, but you have publications as well. So share those publications.
So harnessing your power as an empath is for those who are perhaps on their journey, have become aware, but are starting their journey. And it's looking at all of the different types of behaviors and beliefs that hold you back. And it's an intentional journal. It's designed for you to do the inner work. But the next publication, Stepping into Your Genuine Power as an Empath, are for those who've done the inner work and who recognize that there is much more for them to do and be. And so that again is a 30-day boot camp, really helping people to embed the new way of being. But I think some people prefer to have that one-on-one. It's not to do it for you. This is for the assessment is for those people who are really keen to accelerate, to actually grasp the tail of the tiger and to move forward and to do it quickly. And so I hope people will join me.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, Brenda, would love to hear your offering.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I kind of work in that realm of emotions and really have gotten into the energy body and working with people through the chakra system, helping them build that foundation and clear that emotional debris, that emotional legacy. We collect stuff along the way. Even we inherit it from our parents and our ancestors and collect it throughout our own life. And most of us don't even know that it's there. So in understanding especially the lower chakras, the grounding and the building of that container to hold everything, the creation of, the removal of emotions and creating that flow into your life. And in the third chakra, really tapping into your inner power, your inner truth. Um, that's to me, that's the foundation that is required before people have the launch pad to take off and start doing the work that they're meant to do in the world. So I've put together just it's supposed to be 4-week course. However, it can go as long as you want. The modules are self-paced. They're on a course platform that you do on your own, and then join a group coaching call every week with us that is really building that community. So there's so much power that comes from that collaboration, that connection with other people within that community. It's I'm just amazed that the guidance that comes from participant to participant, I think, is more powerful than what I bring to the table, in answering certain questions. So
Yes. And you also have the resistance shift and accelerating your empathic influence acceleration assessment and an action session too, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there'll
Yes.
be some information, for that in the description as well. And then you also have your Awakening Consciously publication.
I do. It's in ebook right now. It will be out within the next couple of weeks in paperback. It's nice to have that tangible physical copy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm also within the next 30 days, I'll have a 30-day wake up call, which is like 30 days of just waking up every aspect of your being, from physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and preparing you to move forward on this journey. So that will be out in paperback within 30 days.
Okay, awesome, wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, there'll be information for all of this in the description. So I want to quickly share the offerings that I have. And so I have a publication. I have a few, but one particularly, for this is called A Call to Acceleration for Empathic Influencers. It is the art of embodying a new empathic expression to step into a higher call to service, and it is an action planner. And this publication is about preparing for high-end service, being a high-end service provider as a new influencerpreneur, and having that expression and starting to accelerate your process. I also have an opportunity where you can get an assessment session with me on air. It's on an online radio format, and this will give you some exposure even to your brand, and your business, and we can actually go through the publication as well. This also would pre-qualify you for the new high-end empathic leaderpreneur accelerator weekend intensive, and that also is where you can work with me on air in a VIP intensive sort of format, and we would actually work through my publication, The New High-End Empathic Leaderpreneur Acceleration Factor. And what that publication is a VIP day acceleration workspace planner, and it's an introduction to discovering your higher call to service as a leading empathic influencer. But if you're just looking to do something self-paced to level up for sort of the high-end empathic advantage, then I'm going to recommend the VIP day workspace planner that I just mentioned. But also I have a publication or a VIP day intensive workspace planner that's called Highly Sensitive to High End, and it's the basics of becoming an empathic entrepreneur and building a high-end empire. I also have a publication called The Power of Me, The Rise of an Empowered Empathic Phoenix Leaderpreneur, and its creation planner. And all of what we've shared will be in the links in the description box below. I do, before Gina just gives us a closing word, I would love, Gina, share a website that you would love for people to be directed to, and then Brenda, share a website that you would love for people to be directed to. So Gina, you first.
If you go to Gina, Gina, Gardiner, Gardiner, at GinaGardnerAssociates.co.uk, or all one word, all lowercase, you'll find not only the books are there, but also you'll find the VIP intensives for harnessing your power as an empath, and so much more.
Okay, great. All right. And Brenda, your website, really quick. Thank you.
The website is awakeningconsciously.com, and all of the stuff is there. The books will be there. The products are up there. And you can contact me through that site, through the contact page.
Okay, wonderful. I just want to say, before Gina closes us out, have less than 3 minutes here, I just want to say a huge thank you to both of you, and for being the accelerated, empowered, empathic leaderpreneurs that you are, making, a great difference, in this world and in the shifting times that we're in. I appreciate you all so much, and I love just continuing to be able to bring forth for the empathic community. Everything that we're doing together is such an honor and a privilege to be collaborating with you both. So thank you. And Gina, would love for you to close our session out.
Thank you very much. I would say, if you're an empath, challenge anything which is keeping you playing small. The greatest limit to you fulfilling your potential and your divine purpose is likely to be you. Embrace and embody the best version of you. And know that your time, your life, who you are precious. Use them wisely. Don't waste it. We need your gift, and we need it now. You're at the gateway. Be aware of, embrace your power. You've got nothing to fear and everything to gain.